What's up, y'all? It's been a minute. And but I feel like the timing was right. So what's up? I'm Ange Inspires. I just want to be me and inspire you. It's been a minute because I have not been inspired. Let's keep it a buck. I have not really been inspired to say anything, but this morning I just got like some revelation, and I felt like it was something that needed to be shared. So that's what this is today. I am driving and I'm being safe, I promise. So I might not be making eye contact with you very often because I'm being aware of my surroundings, but this is the perfect time for me to sit and really think and process the thoughts. So why not do it now? So I think the last video I might have put out was maybe my testimony about like celibacy and abstinence. It's been probably about a year since I put that video out, and it's crazy what has happened since that last year. So I'll give a quick little recap because it all goes into what I'm going to talk about today. And so since I put that video out, I was invited to share part of my testimony in a Bible study group, in a Bible study setting, and God kind of turned it, and we ended up talking about like purity, not being only or solely about what we do with our bodies, purity in our bodies, like most of what we're taught in church, at least I was, but purity being a purity of the heart, right? Making sure your heart is pure before God. So teach this Bible study, get connected to a new community called Inhale Exhale Bible Group, end up meeting a cool guy, and we start dating soon after. And so the topic I want to talk about is abstinence in dating, right? Because I had this revelation this morning that, I remember being so proud of myself for before dating, like being celibate for so long, right? Like, oh man, I'm doing such a great job. Like, this is great. I'm just focusing on God. Like, we're killing it. And then I get into the dating environment and recognize that it's a little harder than I expected to maintain the purity of heart and the mindset of abstinence, right? And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, because I don't really think that we hear enough about that transition. It's cool when it's just you and God and there's no distractions and you're not looking for anybody and you're not on the scene dating and you don't have anybody around you to tempt you in the areas that you are withdrawing from, right? Like, the whole time I was celibate, there was not nobody in my DMs bothering me. I wasn't going out on dates. I wasn't around any like guys that I was attracted to or any guys from my past. I wasn't in any environments that would take me back to, the places where I was before, where I might have been, under different influences, things like been away from all those other factors. But I had not been around any other possible distractions. And so, not to say that celibacy was still easy, but it was easier because the environment was conducive to support that, right? And then my environment changed. Now I have this person who I'm attracted to, who is giving me attention. And now it's like a test of what I said that I was doing, and a test of, the things that I was saying and thought I did. Like, I thought, oh, it's just me and you, God. I'm focused on you, God. Okay, and then get into a relationship. Is my focus still on God, or now has my focus shifted, right? Where's my attention now that I'm in a relationship? So the revelation that I got earlier today was just like, I guess it was the revelation that is a test. Like, don't forget that you still need God is really what I felt in my spirit, because what it was saying to me was, when I got into a relationship, I had, in the meantime, before I got into a relationship, I read relationship goals. I'm reading all the relationship books. Like, I read this other book. I forgot his name. It's called Single, Married, Dating, Engaged, but another relationship book. Watch, relationship goals, the sermon series, having conversations with my friends about relationships, talking to my dating and married friends and just getting all this information. But you know, wisdom is applied knowledge, right? And so I didn't have wisdom in the area. I had a lot of knowledge though, but I didn't have any area to apply it. And so I get into a relationship and I'm like, wow, okay, cool. You know, now it's going to be easy. I've read all these things. I'm automatically, you know, ready to apply these things to a relationship. This is going to be great. We're going to do this differently. We're going to do this God's way. And it's just going to be awesome. And y'all, it's been such a challenge, a great challenge, but it's been such a test of like the things that I've learned, actually putting them into practice and being firm on those things. And so like one of the things I've learned in relationship has been maintaining obedience to God, right? And that being whatever God told me. There was a very specific instruction God gave me when I started dating, which I thought was very like, what? Why would you ask me to do that, God? That's so simple. Everybody does that. Like, that doesn't make sense for you to tell me not to do that, right? And so at first I'm gung-ho about it. All right, well, I'm following God heavy. If God says for me not to do this, let me communicate that with my partner, and we're just gonna walk this out together, right? The challenge with that was that God spoke an instruction to me, not to my partner, and that is challenging because it's challenging because God spoke the word to me. It is my responsibility how I respond. It's my responsibility to be obedient. It's not anybody else's responsibility. If God didn't give anybody else the word, he gave me the word, and it's my responsibility to make sure that I'm obedient to that word. And so I got caught up quick because I communicated, hey, this is what God told me. Like, okay, cool, all right, we can do that. But the conviction is not the same because God didn't tell him the same thing that he told me. And so I ended up like being disobedient in that area. And it wasn't, literally it was kissing. Like, we're going to be transparent here. God told me not to kiss. And I'm like, God, why would I not be able to kiss? Like, kissing is so basic. Like, kissing is so like simple. Like, in my head, everybody kisses. Like, what? I mean, what? Kissing is not sex. And I realized as I kind of challenged God's instruction to me, I learned, sure, kissing is not terrible. Kissing is not a terrible thing, and it is not sex. But what kissing does is, kissing definitely is a very intimate act, and it's very sensitive, right? And kissing can be a gate, right? Kissing can be the door to whatever else. It doesn't even have to be sex. Kissing can be the door to a bunch of stuff you ain't supposed to be doing. But I overlooked that when he first told me that, because I'm like, no way. Like, kissing is, like, I've been kissing for, before I got saved. Like, I would kiss all the time when I used to date. Like, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But back then, I didn't have the conviction I have now. So I had to recognize, now, from the seat I'm sitting in now, I understand that God gives instruction knowing the purpose of the instruction. God knows that if he's telling me to do, or if he's telling us to do something, it's because he knows what that's going to save you from. He knows what is protecting you from, and he knows where he's trying to take you. And so that's one thing. And also, when it came to dating, when we first started dating, we were actually very intentional about just the space that we would have with each other. Like, if my boyfriend doesn't live in the same city as me, and so when we would see each other, all right, are we doing hotels? Are we doing air mattresses? Like, not sleeping in the same spaces together. And at first it was like, okay, cool, like we could do that. Yeah, of course, we're going gung-ho for God. And then at a certain point it just went like, but like, we grown, it's okay. Like, nothing, we know that we know what we're not going to do. We both agree, like, sex is off the table, right? but like the small details we didn't think about. And I've been listening to the Love Hour podcast, Kev on Stage and his wife, Mrs. Kev on Stage. And one phrase that I love, when they talk about like abstinence and, you know, sex before marriage, they say set yourself up for success, right? And like at first we were very gung-ho about doing that, and it felt great. You know, we would leave when we would depart and go our separate ways. You know, there was no shame or guilt connected to that. We felt like accomplished because, hey, we left and we didn't do anything bad. Like, cool. But set yourself up for success. It's still important. Like, if I could give a tip, I think it's still important to fully be aware and intentional regardless, and keeping that standard of intentionality intact, even when time goes by or you get more comfortable with the person, or even if you've done well, because honestly, like, we haven't done a terrible job of like staying away from each other, but there's definitely been challenges, you know, and we've put ourselves in situations where we've been able to be a little bit too comfortable, and sometimes I, you know, stop and just be like, man, there's so many things I could do differently. But now, today, almost a year into dating, I'm more confident because now seeing the whole scope of what's happened over this time period, I can see like where I went wrong, and I know what I want to do differently now, and I have a stronger conviction about it, because now I can see, wow, God, you really told me that, because, you know, first of all, you know your daughter, you know my past, and you know my defaults, and, you know, there's a lot of areas where if you get too comfortable and you, sorry, this person behind me, but anyway, there's a certain moment, or there's moments where you recognize that even though you want to honor God by not doing the big thing, that you still have to honor God in all the small things and all the decisions that you make. They have to be surrendered to what God's will is for you and what God's instruction is for you. And what I began to notice about myself is that in certain situations, when I got a little too comfortable and I got out of the perspective of honoring God in all the small things in my relationship, I could see where I reverted back to my defaults. And it looked different because, you know, because I'm different. And so I didn't behave in all the same ways, but I could see where doors were opening for me to go back there. And I think that if I could give just any word to someone who is practicing celibacy or abstinence in full singleness, no dating, and you get into a dating relationship, if I could give any tip based off where I am right now, I would just say, like, remember to honor God in all the small things, even in your thoughts, like in your habits, in being aware of your surroundings, in setting yourself up for success in your communication with whoever you're dating, with accountability, like having community around me, because that's another area. I was like, I got this. Like, I don't need nobody around. I don't need nobody in my business helping me along the way. You know, I don't need nobody in my business telling them what's going on, because I want to keep my relationship between us and God. But I recognize quickly that it's very important to also have people around you to be able to walk beside you, not necessarily even having to be in every detail of your relationship, but knowing what God has told you and being able to say, hey, how's that going? Just to keep you in check, because if it's not a daily choice to surrender to God's instruction to you, then like, what's the point? You're gonna keep messing up because you're not committed to honoring God. So yeah. It feels like such a rant, but I really hope it's helpful to somebody. Trying to think if there's anything else, but yeah, I just and so wrapping it up, this past weekend we had a chance, my boyfriend and I had a chance to hang out again, and we after the fact we kind of recapped our time together, and we noticed like, wow, it actually has been different, because I know for me, I really wanted to be more intentional about my part in honoring God. I had to take the blame off of him and not be like, you're the man, you're supposed to be leading and whatever. No, that's not your responsibility. God gave me this word, and God has not changed his mind about that thing. God has not told me anything different since the first time he told me this instruction. Okay, and so therefore it's still my responsibility to make sure that I'm honoring God. I don't care what you got going on. If I honor God, you're gonna have to just follow suit regardless, because of the decisions that I'm choosing to make. You know what I'm saying? But I just remembered more clearly, like, yo, I really want to honor God, and I don't want anything to come into distraction or anything to be pulling me away from God. I was very close with God before anybody else came into the picture. I was in a great intimate space with God, and I recognized that began to change when I just switched my focus onto my relationship and trying to be a good partner, and trying to do all this stuff in my own strength. And I recognized that was the message. Oh, thank you, Lord. That was the message. Don't forget God. Like, don't forget God when you get into a relationship, when you have the transition from being single, and I'm still single, I'm not married, so I'm still single, but going from single to dating, single with single not in a relationship to single in a relationship, with intentionally dating. Don't forget God in that process. Don't try to do it the right way without God being in it, because you can't do it the right way you can't do it God's way without God in it. And God's way looks different for different people, because I can listen to all the Christian dating influencers and listen to how they did it, but how God gave it to them might not be the way God gave it to me, and it's not. And I'm evidence of that, because God's given me an instruction for me in my relationship, and it's up to me to follow that and not even rely on anybody else's advice about that. So that was the word. Don't forget God in that transition. Don't forget what God told you, and honor God in all the small things that go with that instruction that he told you. Just like if God told you that you needed to lose weight, then okay, that's the big goal, but that also means, well, I need to honor God in the way I'm eating. I need to honor God in my time, making time to work out. I need to honor God in drinking my water, like the tiny things. I need to honor God in the way I think about food. I need to honor God in the way I view my body, and the way that I talk to myself, my self-talk. All of those things matter when it comes to losing weight, right? Or getting into shape, your health. I need to make sure that I'm taking care of myself, that I'm getting enough sleep. So it's the same way when God gave me the instruction, hey, don't kiss, do this dating thing my way. Okay, then in all aspects of that, don't put yourself in predicaments where if God told you not to kiss, that kissing could happen. Don't put yourself in predicaments where that could happen. Don't set yourself up for failure by overlooking areas that might be tempting, right? And don't forget God. Like, don't forget to include God in everything you do, like Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. He will direct your path. Acknowledge God in everything you do in your dating journey. Acknowledge God when you're with your partner. Acknowledge God as you're making decisions on the day-to-day basis. Acknowledge God when you feel tempted. Acknowledge God when you got questions about what he told you. Like, I think about what I would have done differently had I said, God, why is it that you've told me this? Even if he didn't give me an answer, I feel like putting my thoughts toward that, then I would want to get in the word more. I want to pray more. I want to be more intimate with God, so I can be listening for what he's saying versus leaning on my own understanding and making the mistakes that I've made, in this process so far. But anyway, yeah, I don't want to stay for too long, but I really hope that something in here helps somebody, because it's really been helping me as I'm talking through it. I understand that there's not any going back from this moment, but everything I do from this point forward is up to me, and it can be different. And so I'm choosing to incorporate God and invite God into my relationship. It's never too late to invite God into the situation with you, because he wants to be in the situation with you, and he's still in the situation with you whether you invite him in there or not. But what you can't do, you won't be successful if you go in your own strength trying to do something God's way. You can't do anything God's way without God. It's just not, you don't have the power to do it without God, because God is the one who empowers you to do things his way, and he gives you the desire to do it his way. And it's a daily decision. It's an everyday decision to honor God in the small things. It's not a one time, okay, God, I'm going to do it your way, and then you think everything is going to be bliss. Like, you say you're going to do it God's way, and there's going to be challenges, because you need to know if that's truth or not. Are you going to do it God's way when a tempting situation comes up? Are you going to do it God's way when you get an invitation to do whatever? Are you still going to do it God's way when it's challenging? Are you still going to do God's way when you're tired of doing it God's way? Are you still going to do it God's way when you're proud of yourself for doing it God's way for a while, and you think you can take a break? You've gotten comfortable now doing it well. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, it's an everyday choice. I'm going to do this God's way, and I'm going to acknowledge God in my way, so he can continue to direct me in the way that I'm going. So that's it. I just wanted to stop and say that. Don't forget God in that transition of going from single with no thoughts about dating to single still, because not married, but single, not married, but in an intentional dating relationship. Don't forget God in that process. When the relationship comes, don't forget God, because you still need God to date intentionally and to date God's way. And don't rely on the instruction or good advice or wisdom of other people. Good, wise counsel is great, but don't let wise counsel trump God's word, because what God says to you is what God said to you. So do whatever God tells you to do in regards to your relationship, your singleness, your marriage, whatever the relationship might be, your life. Wise counsel is great, but wise counsel should be in alignment with what God has already told you. Don't let what somebody else's success was based on lead what you do if God told you something different. Because God knows the plan for you. He knows how to protect you, to get you to the place that he's trying to get you to. He knows what you need in order to get there, and what you need to do and not do. So just listen to God. Don't forget God. Honor God in the small things. Communicate well with your partner, and communicate with God well. So that in communicating, being listening, and communicating, talking to God. So that you know how to follow him in this journey. It's not easy. It's not an easy transition. But trust me when I tell you that the things that you said in your singleness, things you prayed for and asked for, and the things you said you would do, God, if you give me this, I will do X, Y, and Z. Those things will be tested. And it's going to be an interesting check. It's going to be a heart check for you when you see yourself in the predicament that you're in, good or bad. It's going to be a heart check. It's going to let you know. It's going to reveal the truth in your heart, the way that you respond when the situation changes, when you get into that relationship that you've been praying for. Your heart will be exposed. And that's just it. But anyway, I really hope this is helpful to somebody. It blessed me just to say this out loud. Thank you if you watched this. Let me know if this was helpful to you. If you're single right now, praying for a relationship, looking for a relationship. If you're single, just focusing on God right now, but just need encouragement for when that next step comes. If you're newly in a relationship and you're trying to date intentionally and wondering, how do I stay abstinent? Like, how do I do this how do I do this God's way? Outside of what culture says dating is like. Or even if you're steps past me and you're in married relationships, like, share your thoughts with me. I really want to keep this conversation going, because I know that it's not the end of the conversation for me, but I wanted to share where I am right now. with you, because I think it's important to be transparent in every stage, not just when something has been overcome, but when you're overcoming a thing. I think it's important to share those moments with people as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. I love you all. I'm not going to say I'll be back soon. We don't know. But I trust God's timing. I'm going to continue to acknowledge him in my ways and allow him to direct my path. But I really do hope this bless you, and I hope it inspired you. Make sure you like, shoot a comment, let me know your thoughts, and go ahead and subscribe. And I hope y'all have a great day. I hope y'all have just a wonderful journey of choosing to follow God. All right, bye y'all.